Sorry, those of you who are directly in front here, maybe that'll help spread the pain a little bit. Let's get underway, please. I apologize for the polar vortex that seems to have settled in this room. I did call facilities. They assured me that the boiler is down. I asked them to turn the air off here. The response was, "We will try."
They're at lunch.
So, you might want to keep your jackets on, and I have an extra one that's for sale if reasonable.
We should have all brought our office heaters instead of this.
Yeah, there we go. Trip the main circuit breaker. Okay, so the first order of business is to approve the minutes from the December meeting. It's behind the agenda if you want to take a look at it for a minute. And I want to make the usual announcements. Please silence your cell phone. If you need to have a conversation, take it outside. And the third announcement is that we're being recorded. This little, I guess that's a phone. I can't.
Yeah.
Big one.
Does anybody want to move to adopt the minutes, or do we need to make amendments? Ryan moves to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Thank you. Well, it's 2015. Things are looking up for the CSU, in case you haven't figured that out already. And therefore, things are looking up for us. We're still not where we need to be in terms of salary, and today's little mini workshop on in-range progressions is designed to give you some encouragement and some tools with which to do that. There's that. We still have some representation battles to deal with here on campus. Some of the supervisors and managers just don't get it yet, and we're continuing to hammer on those people. We've had some good victories recently, but it's a never-ending battle, as Catherine and Frank can well attest. Do you all know Frank? Frank Polito is our staff labor relations representative, and Catherine, of course, is our chief steward. Next year, we can look forward to another 2% salary increase for everyone,
This year.
right on top of the 3% that we just received. Has anybody not seen their 3%? Who's entitled to it? Good. I've not received any complaints from anyone, so that means that HR and payroll are keeping on top of this, and that's what we need. I have some membership cards. So if you were here, and I call your name, please come and get it. Joseph Flores, Sam Corona, Mary Norton, Irene Thomas, Maricela Guerra, Jennifer St. George, Adeline Ramirez, Neil Body, Maureen Fillmore, Clarissa Espino, and Lisa Ramirez.
And Ray, Jennifer St. George is actually the man about.
Okay.
She's my replacement.
Thank you. I'll send it to her.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, I want to acknowledge some people who are not going to be involved in the union after maybe today, maybe after a couple of weeks. Leila Flores has done a marvelous job as our secretary, and she not only has taken care of the minutes, she starts the recorder for every meeting and then goes back and transcribes the minutes afterwards. But she also, and you may not be aware of this, she is the one who primarily has arranged the room for our meetings and has worked with catering to give us good stuff to eat for 3 years now. And it's a thankless job, but thank you anyway. And Diana Torres has served as a steward. Am I getting some mixed signals here? You're not leaving? Diana Torres has served as a steward. We have some other stewards too. James Deathlifson, Unit 9, who has recently we've taken up the habit of recording these meetings and posting them online for those who can't attend, and he's doing that again. We're a little bit behind on posting the recording of the December meeting, but we'll get that up real soon. In fact, it's posted. I just haven't sent out the URL for it, but I'll send that one and this one together. Then our officers, Catherine Plunkett, Chief Steward and Unit 7 Rep. Chris Shirey, Treasurer. Again, she took some time off from that position, but has been back for 3 years now. And Jamie Jacks wasn't able to join us today. He's not feeling well. He's the Unit 9 rep. So let's appreciate him in his absence. And I didn't miss anybody, did I? Okay, good. All right. So we'll move on to the treasurer's report now. Chris? No? Okay.
She's crazy.
How about the budget?
He calls me whenever I have a mouthful of food, so.
So the moral of the story is don't eat.
Yeah. Wait. since we had the whole break and everything, the report's the same as from December, so nothing really has changed. So I haven't updated the current. I just got it, but I haven't updated the current treasurer's report. But we should still end up with just over $4,000 for the end of the year, going into now January, since we're now in January. And then we did the sunshining of the budget. So if there's, and so that was the last page of the agenda. So we've sunshined it for 30 days. Does anyone have any questions regarding the chapter budget for 2015? Please.
Okay, so we've got two action items that we need to take care of here. The first one is to approve the budget report, which was what Chris addressed first. That's the treasurer's report from December 3rd, 2014. Is there a motion to accept that report as presented? Thank you, Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Catherine? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? What?
Oh,
You were waving.
to
It's like going to an auction. If you go to an auction, don't wave to your friend across the room. Yeah, a $20,000 whatever. Okay, cool. So then, for the proposed budget, the chapter budget for 2015, is there a motion to approve? Shelley. And a second? Marilyn, thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. Just for clarification, these line items aren't etched in stone, so if we need more money for like unit-specific meetings, things can be moved around. Is
Yes,
that
we
correct?
can
Yes.
move the money around, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. These are guidelines that we developed to the best of our forecasting ability, but things happen as the years progress. So we can move things around if we need to. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Okay, Catherine, Chief Steward's report.
See?
It's contagious. When you know you're going to be called on, take a bite of food.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
You were on break.
I feel like my mouth should be full of food. Okay, one thing that I neglected to talk about, the December 31st campus closure. The union is pursuing, this isn't unique to Bakersfield, and the union is pursuing this because in many people's view, it's a lockout, which is prohibited by our contract. Even though they give us time off for the 24th, the 31st is a different story. So I have some questions, and I'm going to be sending out an email about this too. But were any of you on the 31st forced to go into dock status? Did you lose wages for the 31st? No? Okay, good. Were any of you forced to work on that day because you didn't have CTO or vacation time available to use? Nobody? Okay. Good. How many of you used CTO time on the 31st? How many of you used vacation time?
Does that count the personal holiday?
Personal holiday is separate.
Oh.
Okay, so most of you used vacation, all right. How about the personal holiday? How many of you used that? Okay. Well, I would say it was about 85% of you used vacation, maybe. Okay. More on that as it develops. The stance is, look, you know, we're being told that we have to take that day off and we have to use either vacation or CTO, go into dock status and lose wages, or work that day. Well, that's, you know, that doesn't work. So finally, I've been protesting this for years and years. And finally, somebody at headquarters perked up and said, hey, maybe we've got an issue there, so we're going to pursue it. Okay, yes.
Has anybody ever worked on the 31st? Because the campus is closed.
Well, not that I know of, and that's what I'm trying to ascertain out of this.
So cashiers.
Cashiers, yeah, and of course, some people out of our units, UPD, they're always around. Dispatchers, we have dispatchers who are pretty much around the clock, unless they may have rolled that day.
They may have.
Yeah, anyway. Well, we should ask that, yeah. Okay. All right, so the election of chapter officers is nearly complete, but not quite. And Shelley Ike, along with Renee Martin and Ryan Otaka, who make up the elections committee, are going to do a follow-up.
Oh, that's right. He needs to make his vacancy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one thing I forgot to announce. If a chapter office is unfilled after the elections are closed, and we're hoping that that will be done today, that elections will close. If there are still vacancies, the chapter president has the right to make appointments to fill those vacancies. So keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this.
And steward training will be done.
Yeah, and additionally, all officers, because we have a new contract, all officers and stewards will have to go through new steward training, even if you're already certified as a steward. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of months or so as well.
And people walking who go to steward training.
Yeah, if you're not sure whether you might like to serve as a steward or not, sign up for training anyway. It's usually 2 days. On a Friday, we grant leave for that, union leave. We ask you to come in the next day, a Saturday, on your own time. We provide meals and treats. You get the training, you get certified as a steward.
Is it here on campus?
It'll be here on campus, yeah. I will insist. Okay, Shelley.
Happy New Year, everybody. Ryan and Renee, if you guys want to come up here. This is our elections committee, so they can stand up here with me in support of. Okay, so the nominations are completed. Anyone interested in filling any of the uncontested or vacant positions may nominate themselves or others from the floor today. The uncontested offices are Ray Fennell for president, James Jacks for Unit 9 Representative, Gloria Hazlett for Secretary, and Christina Shirey for Treasurer. There were no contested offices out of those. We will take nominations from the floor one at a time. And I have to say each nomination 3 times. I'm not suffering from dementia or anything like that. So with that being said, okay, nominations are now open for Vice President. Nominations are now open for Vice President. Nominations are now open for Vice President. Hearing no nominations, nominations are now closed. Okay, so nominations are now open for Chapter Organizing Chair. Nominations are open for Chapter Organizing Chair. Nominations are open for Chapter Organizing Chair. Hearing no nominations, nominations are now closed for Chapter Organizing Chair. Bargaining Unit 2 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 2 Representative. It's a mouthful. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 2 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 2 Representative. Hearing no nominations, nominations are now closed for Bargaining Unit 2 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 5 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 5 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 5 Representative. Hearing no nominations, nominations are now closed for Bargaining Unit 5 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 7 Representative. Nomination. Hi, Catherine. Yeah, Catherine.
Before you clap, you may not want to clap.
Now?
I guess so, yes. Thank you. I nominate myself for Bargaining Unit 7 Representative. And thank you so much. I'm requesting to continue serving Unit 7 members and fee payers in the capacity of Unit 7 Representative. Along with those duties, I understand the importance of working collaboratively with the other representatives and officers to attain the best working conditions and relationships with management possible. Thank you for your consideration. I'm asking for your vote. Unit 7 people can only vote for this. If I am elected, I will continue to support staff education on the rights and responsibilities contained in our contract. Sincerely, Catherine Plunkett.
Okay, so I got to say it 2 more times. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 7 Representative. Nominations are now open for Bargaining Unit 7 Representative. Hearing no other nominations, nominations are now closed. The position is uncontested and is filled by acclamation. I believe that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Shelley, Renee, and Ryan. We only do this once every 3 years, and we've had real good luck of people stepping forward and filling the positions of the election and nominations committee very well, and that tradition has continued. So we'll take you all out for lunch one day. Okay, thanks. As a comment about uncontested officer races here, there's several ways you can interpret it. One is approval from you for the work that we do. I'll take it that way, but there might be some other messages in there. Nobody else wants to do it. Okay, be that as it may. The other potential underlying message is none of you are stupid enough to do this. So whatever, we appreciate your support, and we are here to work for you. Being an officer, being a volunteer from within means that we're not working just for you. We're working for ourselves too. and so there's kind of a double motivation there. But you know, we think of what's best for the group, the whole of us, first. That's our primary motivation. And if we benefit as individuals from that a little bit, then fine. So thank you for your support in any case. Okay, so the other, James, can you hit the power switch on the projector? Yeah. While that's warming up, I mentioned earlier the in-range progression campaign. We've tried this numerous times before, and there's been varying success. I think the difference this time is that for the first year in quite a few years, there's some hope that there's money in the system. Whether this particular campus will react accordingly or not is another question, and that's why we try to help people as they go through the IRP process. But first we try to encourage people to do it. You can't, you know, you're not going to get a raise if you don't ask for it. That's almost certain. I don't think we've ever heard, well, there may be a few cases, I take that back. There have been a few cases, but very, very few, where a supervisor will initiate an IRP for an employee. So the bulk of the responsibility falls on us as the employees. And you know, there's a whole bunch of different factors at play here. It's not just the money situation. Now that Mike Neal has retired and Kelly Garcia is in the position of the interim AVP for Business Administration, we may see a different philosophy. She still has to answer to the president, as Mike Neal did. And ultimately, the president controls the purse strings. But I mean, Catherine and Frank are meeting with Kelly this afternoon for the first time since she has taken over that position, as well as HR director. She's still the director of HR. And Renee, can you tell us anything? I mean, how is that playing out? Because, you know, who's helping direct HR now?
Well, it's a work in progress, but Tina Williams is also stepping up to help direct HR, and so is Kelly Zubia.
Okay, so it's kind of a three-way split now at the very top within HR. Well, we've had pretty good relations, I think, with Kelly Zubia. So, and we don't work much with Tina. Thank you. Because she handles mostly benefits and that kind of thing. But in terms of contract issues, we have worked with Kelly a few times, Kelly Zubia, and you know, she's been pretty sympathetic to our needs. So ultimately, it's a different atmosphere, I think, in many respects. And so this may be a really good time to apply for an IRP. So with that in mind, Catherine and Frank, I hope you'll help me out here. It's Article 20 in the contract, which is salary and all the various aspects of salary. And with the new contract, there are some language changes and a few subtle substantive changes as well. So the IRP, if you're not familiar with it, is it's a salary increase within your classification and skill level. That's different from being reclassed. It's different from moving up from a level 1 to a level 2 or a level 2 to level 3 in terms of skill levels. So those are separate articles that are handled differently, or separate activities that are handled differently in the contract. So we're focusing just on IRPs today. Notice that here, the president or the president's designee has the appropriate, or an appropriate administrator holds the purse strings and has the ultimate say-so on IRP applications. So you might think the rails are greased with your supervisor and maybe even with HR, but if the president doesn't approve, then it doesn't happen. Can you, James, can you scroll down a little bit? That's good, thank you. So what rationale can you use? Assigned application of enhanced skills. If you go back to the baseline set of skills that you had when you were hired, when you were moved to the current classification, or when you were last reclassed or last received an IRP. That's your baseline. Since that time, if you have received additional training that's applicable to what you do at your desk, and I'm using that term very broadly for those of you who don't work at desks, that can be, those additional skills can be one of the rationales that you can use for an IRP. Retention. This one's kind of slippery. If you get an offer, for example, from another institution or the private sector that is better than what you're receiving here, better benefits, better pay, more responsibility, whatever, you might have a bargaining chip there. Take it to your supervisor and say, hey, look, I'd really like to stay, but I've got this better offer somewhere. And if you know, if you work in an office where there are 20 people who do the same thing that you do, and if you're all classified the same and all paid the same, supervisor's probably going to say, well, gee, I'd like to, but I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you. So then you sign your separation papers and go to the better deal. However, if you're like one of a kind on campus, like I'm one of a kind, I'm the only performing arts tech level 3, and I don't know if frankly, if I did something like that, they'd probably say, well, good luck to you. but it might work differently for some of the rest of you. Anyway, that's one of the other potential reasons that you can use to request an IRP. Equity. Going back to the 20 people in your office who do the same job, if you're the lowest paid person and you've been at it as long and your performance evaluations are good, you might have a good rationale there. So give it a shot. Performance. If your performance has been outstanding for every single evaluation that you've gotten for the past 27 years, and you're still at the bottom of the pay scale, go for it. Out of classification work that does not warrant a reclassification. Now this one gets a little crazy too, because what are the criteria for a reclassification? Well, that is, again, it's fluid. And you might think in your mind that you've got enough reasons for a reclassification, but in fact, when the classifying officer, when the classifier looks at it, he or she may not see rationale for that. And we can work with HR on that, On the other hand, if you if you haven't thought about it, and you're doing additional things that fall outside of your classification, it might be worth a few minutes of your time to take a look at the CQNS, which is the Classifications and Qualifications Standards, at the Chancellor's website for your particular classification, and see, if you're an accountant 1 and you're actually doing accountant 3 work, then you probably got a pretty good case there, especially if you're doing it more than 50% of the time. And that 50% level is not hard and fast, but that's the general guideline that we feel that we have a good case to argue for reclassification for you.
And how that relates to the in-range progression is that sometimes we see that an in-range progression request comes back with a response from the classifier that says, you're working way out of class, or you're doing more at this higher level than this lower level. You actually should be asking for a reclass, or a classification review is what they call it, instead of asking for a raise at this lower level. And it kind of extends out the process, but it's kind of a good sign if you're told that you're working at a higher classification. So don't be discouraged, just go ahead and do the additional paperwork and call us if you need some help with that.
Okay, thanks. Increased workload. Who experienced increased workload during the recession? Anybody? Okay. Well, hopefully your workload has backed off since then. But if it hasn't, I tell you, I went up to the Maritime Academy a few weeks ago to tour the campus and talk to some union people up there. They only represent 80 employees there, CSUEU employees. We have about 280 here. They are, in most cases, one deep. I talked to one guy in IT. Before the recession, he and one other person did that particular job in IT. I forget what it was. Network specialist, I think. And equipment services specialist. When the recession came along, they laid the other guy off 100%. They cut this one guy back to 50%. That's a 75% work reduction. And he was at that status for 18 months. He held on. The chapter went to bat for him, and now he's back full time, but they have not replaced the other guy. And I know there are some, maybe not quite that severe, but some similar situations here on this campus. So if you have seen increased workload at any time, not just during the recession, you may have a good case for an IRB. New lead work or new project coordination functions. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Lead, anybody not know what a lead is? Like that? Okay, well, let me just lay it out to be sure everybody understands. A lead worker is one of your peers who is a represented employee who now has supervisory responsibility over other classified staff members, but who is not an MPP. if you are a lead and your classification does not allow for a lead or does not mention a lead position, then you may qualify for an IRP. If you are a lead, you may qualify for an IRP. if it is mentioned in your CQNS. And other salary-related criteria, what does that mean? Any idea, Frank or Catherine?
Maybe market value?
Market value, okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Can you scroll down again, please? Oh, a little too far. There we go. Okay, so letter C there. You can, if your request is denied in the next fiscal year, you can resubmit it exactly as is.
No, if it's due to lack of funds.
Didn't I say that? I'm sorry, I meant to say that. I was thinking that. Okay, so this is, remember I said that we've seen a couple of cases where the supervisor has submitted, has initiated the request. Okay, this covers that. The bold and underlined sentence there is new language in the contract, with the latest contract. So if a supervisor initiates the request, it can be for more than one employee. If the administrator must forward the request to HR within 30 days after receiving it. What we recommend is that if you put in an IRP request, you submit it to the supervisor and to HR at the same time. They date stamp it, and that begins the clock on the 30 days. And that's kind of your coverage, your insurance that the administrator will answer within 30 days, will respond within 30 days. The review has to be completed within 90 days after it's received in HR, after the request is received in HR. And you have to have a written response if it's denied. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down again. I think that's it for this. No, it's not, there's a little more. Okay, one of the problems that we find on not just this article but others is that 23 campuses plus the chapter's office or the chancellor's office have 24 different policies on IRPs, you name it. And the union is working long term to get some of those things consistent, yes, thank you, throughout the system. Performance evaluations is a perfect example, and there's a campaign going on right now to get performance evaluations, the forms, the same at every single campus. However, in the meantime, we're stuck with each campus having the ability to develop its own policies. The softening measure there is that the guidelines and procedures at each campus have to be consistent with what's in the contract. And still, unfortunately, denials are not grievable. The funding has to come from campus funds, or if there's been bargaining that dictates where those funds come from. And this is where things get really slippery, because a campus can always say, well, gee, we'd like to help you, but we don't have money. And we see a lot of that. We saw quite a bit of that. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something else. But we have seen that. So, you know, that's where Frank and Catherine and the rest of us, in support of them, can put pressure on administration to set aside money for IRPs specifically. And so we'll see how things go. Please, if you submit one, let us know that you're submitting one, so that we can keep track of it and keep the statistics. If we get a 70% rejection rate or an 80% rejection rate or whatever it is, conversely, maybe we only get a 10% rejection rate. Yeah, right. We want to know that so that we can work we can work on management to change that situation. Because nobody's paid enough. I know one person in the entire system who is paid enough, and he doesn't work at this campus. In fact, he's probably paid too much. At any rate, also, if you're thinking of submitting one, please let Catherine know, run it by her, and she can put another pair of eyes on it and maybe give you some suggestions. She's really good at that. Okay.
I have something I want to
Please. And then we're just about out of time.
Okay, so New Year's resolution, everybody, you have to accept this or you don't get out that door, and it's awfully cold in here. You have to start keeping track of all of your duties. This is what becomes your position description. So keep a tablet every time you do something new, or do it more often, or hand something off to somebody else. Keep track of those things too. Then you have your document that's ready for you to update your position description. Everything that happens to us as far as our salary goes is based on the job announcement, which also is supposed to be reflective of the official classification and qualification standards. Your actual duties, which is this list of things that you're doing, and the resulting position description that becomes a part of your official personnel file. So working with these three things, you can come up with a document, you submit it to your supervisor. There might be some conversation going on and you might have to tweak it a little bit, and then it goes forward to that person's boss, and then eventually it ends up in the human resource official file. Okay, everybody needs to do this every year, and if your job is changing more often than that, then do this more often. If you go to the CSUEU website and look, I think it's at On the Job, a library kind of area on the job, there are helpful tools there. So there's action verbs, there's examples, and we have examples from our campus where people have applied for reclasses and in-range progressions and just simply updated their position description. You know, it might not be that all at once you're going to go for an in-range progression, but if you don't know what you're doing and your boss doesn't know what you're doing, what you're adding to your desk, or what has been given to you, then you're kind of in a minus situation. So We want everyone to be in a positive situation and start today, start writing down what you do at your job. Somebody said to me one time that it would be really nice for Unit 7 people, administrative coordinators out in the academic offices, to have a best practice guideline that would incorporate all the PeopleSoft stuff that we do and all the different forms that we do, and all the helpful things that seem to be scattered in all these different places, to have it all in one spot. And what you're doing for yourself by keeping your position description updated is basically a best practice guideline. And that's all I have.
And that's all we have. Thank you very much. Have a good year. Oh yeah, sign in if you didn't, please.